Welcome to Six Sided Disc's course preview of Caesar Ford Championship Disc Golf Course in Xenia, Ohio, ahead of the Caesar Ford Amateur Championship and Amateur-only B tier on July 3rd and 4th. The course has 3 different layouts. We'll be previewing the white tees in this video. Check the video description for links to the blue and gold layouts. The white layout is a par 68, 7,598 feet, and this will be played by the MA50, MA3, MA4, and men's junior divisions. The course features 10 par 4s, 2 very long par 5s, as well as an impressive variety of obstacles, elevation, water hazards, narrow gaps, and massive long fairways, and even some cute critters along the way. It will test every aspect of your game, so make sure you come prepared. Six Sided Discs will be on site all day, both days for the tournament, selling discs from all your favorite brands, accessories, and bags, including grip-enhancing chalk balls, minis, and much more. We're also excited to be raffling off this Primal Run Neo Evolution Splice from Discmania with Portland Open champion Eagle McMahon's commemorative bottom stamp underneath. Tickets are $1 each, and the winner will be drawn after the last division's payout is finished on Sunday evening. We begin with hole 1. It's a par 3, 213 feet. Tee shot is over the parking lot, or you can take the left gap, which has many more trees on the way. We're assuming these porta-johns won't be in the parking lot for the tournament, but it's hard to say. And even if they are, you do have a pretty good wide line that can get you a circle 2 putt at the very least, which we're going to see a pretty decent shot right here. The green is very obstructed though, with lots of trees. Just about anywhere that you land, you'll need to straddle around to avoid some low-hanging branch or tree. Don't be afraid to play this first hole for par. Hole 2 is a par 4, 404 feet. Long fairway with a lot of trees and thick rough on either side. Your best play is to keep it in the fairway, even if you have to sacrifice distance to do that. The ceiling is a little bit low in areas, so try to control the height of your shot as well. As you get further down the fairway, there are yet more small trees blocking your approach into the basket. Something like an overstable mid-range or approach disc might be ideal to just try and chip through the gaps here, but be careful at how aggressive you are with running your putt, because danger lurks behind the basket in the form of a creek no more than 4 or 5 feet past the basket. Hole 3 is a par 4, 390 feet. The white pole toward the end of the fairway is an indicator of just about where you want to land. Your first shot, you're just trying to get out into the fairway, and that white post will indicate that the opening for the basket is about another 60 or 70 feet, and you're just trying to get your approach into that opening so you get a look at a possible long birdie putt. A lot of these holes are very challenging, and again, water features behind the basket on a lot of them as well. So don't be afraid to take a safe par, as bogeys are going to happen quite often on this course. Hole 4 is another par 4, but a little bit shorter, 276 feet. The hill at the end of this fairway slopes up to the right. The basket is at the top of that hill with a drop off behind it to the right. Rest assured that once you reach that hill, it does flatten out straight beyond the fairway. So if you can just get up onto that hill on your second shot, you should have a decent birdie look or a safe layup for par. This shot finished in the ideal landing zone just before this pit. There's a small hill on the front, and you really just want to get up onto that flat with the basket on your second shot. Here's a reverse view looking back down towards the tee. And just down next to the basket is a sharp drop off. This would be your worst case scenario when approaching the green. Hole 5 is a par 3, 381 feet. Your best play here is a hyzer down this gap that the camera's showing you here, or a slightly wider shot to play for par, which is what this shot is, but this is going to leak just a little bit long. This is one of the most open greens you will have seen so far on the course, so you want to make sure you avoid any little mistakes to leave yourself long. And just try and get up there for an easy par if you missed the ideal line off the tee. Hole 6 is a par 4, 509 feet. The basket is just over the hill behind the large tree in the middle of the fairway. The fairway is very wide, so you can play a distance driver, but be careful of the wind. The wind can play a factor here as we're at one of the highest points on the course, and it can easily drag your shot well left or right on the fairway. Either side of the fairway is suitable for approaching the green, but the green does slope downhill away from the basket. So coming up short like this shot is not too bad as long as you don't get too aggressive on your putt. And this putt here will show you an example of what can happen if you do, sailing well deep of the basket. The rough is pretty unforgiving behind, so make sure you keep it in the grass. Hole 7 is a short par 3, only 135 feet, but all the danger lies in the first 100 feet with tons of skinny trees and no really clear gap. Your result will probably be the same as this. Pitching out on your second shot should leave a nice look for par. And your worst case scenario is to end up right on this hole because the rough gets even thicker than the middle of the fairway with all those trees. The hole does open up if you're able to get out of these trees, so it's not a bad idea to take whatever route you think will get you beyond these initial trees and into the opening so that you can at least see the basket. But once you reach that green, you'll be greeted with that same wind you found on hole 6, again at one of the higher points on the course and one of the more exposed openings. You're likely to get blown around a bit out here. Hole 8 is the first of the 2 par 5s from the white tee, 827 feet. You're playing to the opening through those trees. The basket is at least another 150 feet beyond that opening in the trees. Your first shot, ideally, is a placement shot somewhere in the fairway, and the worst case scenario is to end up over here in the rough where you can't get a proper run-up. If you do find yourself pinched off, try and get yourself in a good position to approach on your next shot to get through those guardian trees toward the green. This shot leaks a little bit left, but stays out of the tall grass, which will play in bounds, but might as well be out of bounds as you won't be able to run up through that grass. This is another example of a place you don't want to be on this hole. Short and right, has absolutely no line into the basket, and you'll just have to pitch back around through some trees to even be able to see the basket. And even then, if you're not already exhausted from this marathon par 5, we've got another small gap between the basket and another OB creek right behind it. So danger really lurking at every corner on this course. Make sure you play smart and try and avoid that water. That was an aggressive run there. This course will be an endurance test, so make sure you come prepared. We close out the front 9 with hole 9, a par 4, 374 feet. You're trying to get through this initial gap of trees just beyond that little cluster of guardian trees. And if you can do that, you should have a clear approach to the basket. But if you push too far through that gap, you can reach an out-of-bounds road, which cuts through the fairway.
Great fairway shot.
This was perfect placement on the first shot. The out-of-bounds road is not in play, and we're able to get right over with a beautiful forehand approach onto the green, which finishes right next to the shelter house and parking lot by hole 1. And this would be a great time to tell you that hole 9, because it finishes at the parking lot, is a great time to pick up some extra water or snacks that you packed from your car before you head to hole 10. This course is incredibly long and grueling, and you'll thank us when you aren't out of water on the back 9. Hole 10 from the white tees is a par 4, 528 feet. Your first shot down the fairway is just trying to get into position to approach the green for a possible birdie, but you need to cut off about 300 feet of distance to have a controlled approach. Wind will also be a factor, as this is one of the most open parts of the course. And this is a particularly windy area in Ohio. See the wind blowing on Rich's shirt here, and he's able to get up within about 90 feet or so, and this will just be a layup for a par. Again, par is not a bad score on this course. I expect quite a few players will be over par, very few under par. As the course has an incredibly difficult finish, you're going to want to do most of your scoring before the last 4 holes. Hole 11 is a par 4, 404 feet. The basket is perched on this hill straight down the fairway. In the novice division, you probably don't have 400 feet of power, so you really want to play a placement shot that avoids the out-of-bounds road and the thick grass on the left. Anywhere in the fairway will do, and then it's about picking the right type of approach up onto that hill. This is another area exposed to wind and was incredibly windy during our preview round. Rich showing you the perfect way to approach, throwing a mid-range flat up onto that hill and getting it to stick for a birdie putt. I'm going to show you the wrong way to approach. Coming in on a sharp angle on the hill is almost certainly going to get you rejected and rolled right back down it. And you'll experience that same risk if you're approaching and putting anywhere near circle. It's really easy to roll away right back down that hill and be left with 35 feet uphill towards the basket. And here's an example of that putt. Got to generate a lot of power on a jump putt from down here just to get the height right. But if you go long, you can go right back down the other side into some bushes, and so you'll have a tendency to come up short Ended up just tapping in from there. And even though Rich threw a perfect approach shot, he is still having to straddle out on a knee just to get a decent line at the basket. A lot of trees on the greens on this course, and very fortunate not to roll away. Hole 12 is a very challenging par 3, 161 feet. The only real line from the white tee is to the left of this tree in the middle of the frame with some bark missing. Right-hand turnover, or if you're able to get the angle with a forehand, but it's pretty difficult to do so. Rich is going a backhand turnover with his RPM Kotuku. This one is a little bit inside, but he gets lucky and finds a gap all the way down. But even if you get down onto this fairway, there are trees aplenty. I should also point out that off the tee, you're throwing over a small creek, so if you hit an early tree, you'll probably end up out of bounds in that creek. There's a little bit of rough behind the basket, and that is the main obstacle for you here on hole 12. Hole 13 is our second par 5 at 801 feet from the white tee. You have some rough on your right and thick grass on the left, lining the fairway all the way down, and you're aiming for the opening at the end of this shot there where there's a few trees sticking out. With such a long hole, you're really just going for placement shots on the fairway. Distance isn't the most important aspect, so make sure you're just keeping it in bounds and in a place with good footing. And this is a perfect example of how to do that. Step up and do it one more time, and you should find yourself just about 2/3 of the way down the fairway. This one's going to leak a little bit left, but does leave a good angle into this opening. Here we should finally be able to see that entryway into the basket. It's just exactly where this disc is going to land. And once again, behind the basket, you'll find another creek. Make sure you bring a disc retriever if you're going to run these putts. And another protected green with a lot of trees here obstructing your approach. And even a good shot getting through those trees is really almost immediately testing that creek behind the basket. Rich showing you the way to do it with a nice lofty turnover with his roach. Hole 14 is a par 3, 246 feet from the white tee. You're playing the left side of the fairway. A backhand turnover or forehand is just trying to get up beyond the last grouping of trees in the middle of the fairway. And if you're able to do so, you'll be left with another challenging putt, but a possible birdie if you're able to get the distance. This shot gets a nice little kick off of a branch and skips out to circle one edge, which is about the best you can hope for, even on a 246-foot hole here. As you'll see in the next shot, this green is very protected with some low-hanging branches and a lot of trees. It's going to be a real challenge to get a disc back in there to the basket. So save your birdie shot for hole 15, which is a par 3, 285 feet. Take your putter or approach disc, maybe even an overstable mid-range, and just give it a nice toss downhill to this big open green. But beware that the wind is playing pretty strongly out here in the open field, as well as it will be here on the green. So try and keep your tee shot close for an easy birdie putt. Hole 16 is a very challenging par 4, 571 feet, and the start of the last 3 holes, which are the 3 hardest on the course. You're aiming for this very narrow gap just to get through. About 2/3 of the hole is before this gap, and another third of it after that narrow gap. So placement is absolutely everything. Avoid the rough on the right and the tall grass on the left. And even if you do, you may still find yourself pinched off as Rich is after that first shot. On your second shot, make sure you at least get into this opening so you can see the basket for your third. Rich does a great job with that forehand, actually getting through the gap slightly. He's about halfway through. And here's that gap, maybe 40 to 50 feet wide. And the basket is protected by another group of narrow trees. And then do your best to make your putt. I would expect this hole to play well above 4 on average, maybe pushing close to 5, which would make it probably the third most difficult to par on the course. And Keith played a fantastic shot, but even he has low-hanging branches on the backside of this green. And putt 3 times if you want, you're still not going to make it. Hole 17 is a par 4, 512 feet. You're trying to get through this gap in the trees straight ahead. You can just see the white band at the top of an elevated basket, which is surrounded by a little corral. It does look like an island hole, but it does not play as an island hole. So don't worry about out of bounds other than the rough. Rich is going with the heat, and there is also a strong wind here, and this is your worst case scenario on hole 17, to be off the fairway by this much. The best you can do at this point from jail is just get back to the fairway. No real way to make any forward progress. And your worst case scenario from there is to leave your pitch out a little bit short. So Rich is just barely on the edge of that rough. He's thinking roller, maybe Anheuser. But there are 100 trees in the middle of this fairway and very few actual routes to take through here. Once you finally reach the green, you are greeted with an elevated basket with some features around the bottom that are sure to cause some little trickly rollaways to 25 feet or so.
Nice luck.
Don't be afraid to lay one up close here if you're watching the scores towards the end of your round. And then when you're done, take in the gorgeous view of your fellow competitors coming behind you. This really is an amazing course and well worth the trip out to Xenia, whether you're playing in this tournament or not. Hole 18 will play as the most difficult on the course. It's a par 4, 594 feet from the shortest tee, the white layout, and boy, are there some trees. I would assume there won't be any vehicles, though, for you here, so we will have to adjust our play for the preview round. You're just trying to get over this creek or play safe to the right-hand side on your first shot. Dropping in the water would be your worst-case scenario, so make sure you at least make it to the other side. It is a very low ceiling, so a mid-range, maybe even a putter. Play it safe. This one is a little bit high and catches some branches, but does make it across. And as we're not able to see our second shots here, we're going to move up to the ideal landing zone for your third. You'd hope to land towards the edge of this opening by these trees, which is still a very difficult shot. And that is a difficult place for Rich's approach to go. And like I said, this course is extremely tiring. 7,000 feet just on the holes themselves. And Rich is back over by hole 12, I think it is. Just trying to approach this basket. The basket is up on a hill right next to the amphitheater. So Out of Bounds Road, Out of Bounds Amphitheater, kind of plays like an island, and it likes to roll away. There's trees guarding it. That shot is very fortunate to sneak through. And we're going to see a couple of common putting locations here. Rich from this side by the amphitheater. And Keith will show us the alternate angle from the opposite side in perhaps the most difficult way possible. But nevertheless, it's a great putt. All right, everyone, and that is a wrap for our preview of the white layout at Caesar Ford. Check out our preview of the blue and gold layouts for more angles of each hole. And make sure you pack all the necessary supplies for this tournament. It's going to be a real challenge. Lots of water in play. Bring extra discs, leave them in the car. Maybe you can pick them up halfway through. Make sure you're just prepared in general. Water, sunscreen. Did hear about some ticks out there, so come prepared. Thanks again for watching our course preview of the Caesar Ford Amateur Championship. Whether you're playing in the tournament or not, come shop with us and check out discs, bags, and accessories from over 20 brands, including Innova, Discraft, Discmania, Dynamic, Castaplast, Prodigy, MVP, and more. And don't forget, you can also enter in our raffle for this sick Primal Run, Discmania Neo Splice with an Eagle McMahon Portland Open bottom stamp. Tickets are $1 each, and the winner will be drawn after the last division's payout is finished on Sunday evening. We'll give you a call if you won and work out how to get the disc to you. As always, please share this video and like and subscribe for more local disc golf content from around Ohio, and we appreciate your support.